Hey guys, so today we're going to be working on the Monarch Lathe and we're going to be doing an oil change in the headstock. So let's go down here and discuss what we're going to be doing. And by the way, I am currently in the middle of a clutch repair on the Monarch Lathe, but what I'm doing is I'm making two separate videos. So we'll have one subject on fixing the clutch, and we're going to have this video on how to drain the oil, clean the headstock, and refill it. All right. And purpose of that is just to kind of make it a more searchable subject matter for the guys that are working on Monarch machines that want to learn a little bit more about how, you know, to fix or repair something or do maintenance on it. All right, so let's discuss the headstock. Now I've been keeping the headstock covered up. You see we got the lid right down there, and I'm going to clean that as well. So I covered the headstock up with this tarp just to keep any kind of dust and sediment that's floating around in the air for the last 2 days out of the headstock. So this oil has been in there for quite some time, and I'll show you in the manual what it recommends for the oil to go in here. And it also says that they recommend, Monarch does, that you drain and flush the system once a year. Now I think most of us are guilty that we don't do that kind of preventative maintenance, and it's good that we should, but this is not used every single day, all day hard, you know, like in production work. But we're going to go ahead and give it a nice drain and flush anyway. So what I have picked up is I've got a 5-gallon pail of some kerosene. We're going to be using that to flush the gearbox and to kind of clean it out. And then the oil that we're going in there is Maropa 100 by Chevron. So Maropa 100 is an ISO 100 grade industrial oil, which is equivalent to the SAE 30 weight oil that that Monarch recommends in their book to put in here. Okay, so the ISO 100. Let's come down here and look at my manual. I'll show you what we got here. This is a just a printout copy of another manual, and it gives you instructions here on the lubrication system. So right here it says we recommend the use of a high grade oil, the equivalent of SAE 30. Okay, right here. And then also down here we recommend that once yearly all oil should be drained of the headstock and the headstock flushed out with kerosene and clean, preferably filtered oil used to refill it. I don't have a filter cart to be able to filter this oil, so unfortunately I'm going to be doing like most people and just dumping the oil in there. But it is a good thing if you actually can filter the oil. This is the viscosity chart that I printed out a while back whenever we were working on the G&E shaper there. I've got a whole video series on that, going into that, cleaning that gearbox out and filling it with oil. So this is the chart that I had printed out of a book, and it shows the SUS viscosity rating right here. Okay, and if you go across here, you can see you got ISO, AGMA, SAE crankcase, SAE gear. So depending on what your machine recommendation is for the SUS rating, this was for the shaper, and it recommended, I think it was 500 or 550 SUS. So you come across and you can use these oils right here. So I ended up using the ISO 100 for the shaper, and it also happens to be the same oil that we can use for the Monarch because it's recommended an SAE 30 right there, SAE 30. So you can see it's right here in line with the ISO, which that's the industrial rating for that viscosity of oil. So we're going to use ISO 100, but you can certainly go in there with the SAE 30 if you would like, just like the book says. So now that we've got that covered, we're going to come around here to the back of the lathe. I've got my system ready to go. So the oil drain plug is right up underneath here. It is right there where I'm pointing at. So I've got a funnel and a hose held in with my Noga clamp right here. I'm hoping that's going to be enough to not overflow, and we're going to drain it right down into that tub. I've got another bucket here that I can put right here if I'm getting a bunch of oil overflow. And we will be using a 3/8 drive ratchet to stick in this drain plug right here. It'll go in right there and be able to loose it up that way. All right, so that's what we're going to work on. We'll go ahead and start getting it drained now. All right, we're going to get the oil drain plug taken out. I've got an extra bucket here. I got some rags nearby. Let's see how this goes. Try not to drop it. Yep, it's going to overflow it. All right, I'm going to have to try to meter this. Maybe leave the plug there. No, that's not going to be fast enough. I need a much bigger funnel and a much bigger hose. I can tell it's going to overflow that in no time. I've got a much bigger funnel. It's just getting it from here over to a bucket. It's just extremely tight quarters here, and I got that bracket kind of right in the way, holding the electrical box and panel on. So the change of plan is I've got my little small bucket right here that just fits under that bracket. So I'm just going to drain it out, like 1 gallon at a time, or 3/4 of this bucket. Put the plug back in like I did, and then dump it into the pail over here with a large funnel. All right, so let's just go ahead and do that. And it is filling up fast, so that is a fast drain right there. Go ahead and start getting the plug back in it, just like that. Don't want to overflow. I think you can see my pathway right here. I'm going to slide the bucket out this way, and then this is my big pail and funnel we're going to use right there to dump this oil in right here. I don't know how much oil is actually in this headstock. It doesn't say, it doesn't give how much oil actually goes in there. You've got an oil sight over there that you monitor to make sure that you have enough oil in the headstock. Second bucket. I'm thinking about possibly rigging up some kind of check valve system, or like a ball valve that I can rig up here to be able to quickly drain it. Maybe hook a hose to it with a ball valve, that way it goes straight into the bucket. Now it looks like we're starting to get down to our down to the end, really. Slowing way down now. It's a good thing. I'm just going to go ahead and let that drain like it's doing. Try to get as much out as I can. All right, we've got most of the oil drained out of there. That's the same second bucket from the last clip you seen. Just been trying to let it slowly drain, and you can actually see right underneath there where the drain plug is. If I see if I can, you can see my hand under there moving under the drain plug. So we've still got some oil sitting in that area there. I'm going to see if I can. It seems like they're just sitting down in those cavities, the casting. I don't know, maybe I can maybe stick a little pig mat in there to try to help soak some of that oil up. But the next phase of what we're going to do here, by the way, I only have this off right here. This is your quadrant gears, is because I was inspecting it and I want to clean all this out right there. So this is just something else that we're going to do, is get those gears cleaned up. I put some of my kerosene in a jug here. It's just easier to handle in a small container like that. And I've also got my Sure Shot sprayer here filled up with kerosene, pressurized. And this is what I'm going to use to help wash and spray the inside out. If you'll look right here, we're going to see, just kind of use the kerosene to wash everything down. And I'm going to get in there with a rag and try to wipe some of the sediment off of the sides there. But this is what we're going to use, is this right here to help kind of wash it out. I'm going to go ahead and pour some of this in there, and as I pour it, I'll pour it over the gears here. I want to kind of put some of this in the bottom to help kind of break up some of that old oil. I think my plan is to go ahead and try to wash it down as it sits right here. I'm going to get in here manually with my hand and kind of wipe the insides of the gearbox case out, and try to move some of this down in the bottom, those cavities where all that oil was, and then drain that much out. And then we're going to go ahead and put enough in there that I can actually run the machine. And that won't be until we get the clutch back together, which is going to be hopefully in a few hours, have the clutch back together, and then we'll be able to run it and cycle it with the kerosene to kind of help flush all the old oil out and then drain it one last time. Yeah, you can see a lot of sediment built up on the casing. This stuff actually does a really good job cleaning the machines, and again, it's what Monarch Manufacturing recommends to clean their machine, and I'm sure many other companies recommend the same too, as it breaks down, grease and oils, and it's a petroleum base instead of the water-based cleaner. One of these brass fittings actually has a letter and number on there. It's RJB5. While we're in here, I wanted to point out the oiling system. You've seen the copper lines here that forces oil up to the Timken bearings, and then the gears are mainly all just oiled by a oil bath, running into oil underneath. But the oil pump is actually right here. I'm pointing to it there. That's one of those Bijur piston type oil pumps. Okay, the bottom of it sits down in the oil, and if you look across here, this shaft goes across, and there's a cam right here, or a cam pawl maybe I should say, and I haven't noticed it until now, and I won't notice it till later when we run it, but I believe this plate here is a cam, and if I spin it by hand here, you can see the pump going down, which is being moved by this arm right here. Now it's coming back up. So I believe when the spindle is turning, I believe this is a cam on the outside of this plate here that's running this oil pump, and it's pressurizing oil to all of your Timken bearings. And then this line right here actually goes over, there's a sight glass right there, and that's what you just visually look at that whenever you're operating the lathe to make sure that it's actually pumping oil. There is another sight glass down below that gives you your oil feel. Make sure that you got enough oil in it. I'm going to remove this plate right here. This is behind the input shaft. So the shaft that operates the clutch, and the input is all right here. And I'm only taking it off because it's just a cover plate, and it's going to allow me to kind of reach in here and help clean out and wipe some of the back side of the case off here. A gasket on there. I'm going to try not to disturb that, but just kind of wipe it off, and then you can see some of the sediment that's built up on the bottom of it right there. So I'll be able to reach right in here and just kind of help wash the rest of this out. We've got most of the cleaning that I can do by hand finished up, so I've got the inspection cover washed off, and I'm going to go ahead and put it back on, because when we go to run it, I'm afraid we're going to have oil coming out of this. So we'll go ahead and put it back in place. I'm just reusing the the same gasket that was on it there. I don't know if there's any video that exists in the world. Maybe Monarch has some, but I think it would be really cool if we was able to watch some video from back in, say, the 40s, 50s, or 60s, whenever they actually built these machines, cast them, machine them, and put them together. It would be really cool. I'm going to go ahead and drain the fluid that's in there now, the kerosene that we use to wash the inside of the gearbox out. And my theory is, all the sediment that we washed and wiped is hopefully washed down to the bottom. So we're going to try to drain some of this out, and then the cavity down in here, and then there's another one over here. I'm going to try to stick some pig mat down in there on end to try to help soak up whatever's left down in there. And then we will refill it with some fresh kerosene for our flush, our complete run-in and flush. All right, I'm just going to let that do its thing and finish draining out of there. This is my pig mat, or also known as oil absorbent mat right there. So I'm going to take a couple pieces of this. This stuff works really good. I'm going to probably just see about rolling it up. All right, there's a couple cavities in the bottom that some of the fluid is still sitting in. And my attempt is to stick it down in here like this on the end, and it'll start absorbing that fluid up in there. A little bit tighter shot of what I'm talking about there. You see the cavity down there maybe. And this will take a little time. I'm just going to set it in there like that. Just push it in there, and that fluid will continue to absorb up into that pig mat there. All right, I'm also going to go grab another one and do the one behind you there. All right, The end of it stuck down in that cavity, so we'll let it do some absorbing now. You can see there what we're talking about. Sucking it right on up. All right, we just finished buttoning up the clutch, so we got that done, and I have been soaking all the little bit of fluid left in the bottom down there. So let's go ahead and pull these guys out. You can see they're saturated there. I think that was it. I need to double check. There's still a couple little spots down in there. I need a little pump to get in there and get that out, and I don't have one. I got this old turkey baster. Let's see if I can. It looks like that's working to get that out of there. You don't know what you need until you need it. And I know the guy showed that Harbor Freight has got these little small manual pumps, and you can put a little hose on it, stick it down in there, but I really don't feel like getting out and running all the way over to Harbor Freight. So far this is working pretty good right here. All right, well, I have sucked out about as much as I can get. It's just that one little cavity right in there. This side is dry, and I've wiped in there as far as my hands can reach to wipe as much as I can. See a little spot right there that I missed. All right, but so I'm ready to go ahead, and we're going to go ahead and put some kerosene in this. I'm going to put just enough in there that I know the pump over here is going to be pumping and pumping it, and we're going to run it in low gear and let this thing run for a little bit and try to wash all the old oil out of the bearings and off the gears and let it settle back into the bottom, and I'll do the drain once more. Not quite there yet. And anybody concerned about me wasting this stuff, I bought this bucket just to do this right here. It cost me, it was $20, a little over $20 for a bucket. $4 a gallon from the oil company. Minor expense to do some nice preventative maintenance on this machine here. Okay, yeah, we're there now. We are good to go. I'm up on the sight glass, so I'm probably going to have to put the cover on this. We'll go ahead and see what it looks like when it's running. We're going to be slinging some, at least it's running it now, so. All right, we know we're going to get some good pumping action there, so let's cover this back up. All right, I just finished cleaning the lid here, wiping the whole bottom of it off, the underside I mean. So we're going to go ahead and take this. I'm going to slide it back on. Careful not to hit our oilers there, our oil lines. Alright. That should keep it from splashing out anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it back on, and I'm going to let it run for a few minutes to flush it. Shouldn't take very long. Alright, we've been running the headstock for approximately 15 to 20 minutes now. I feel like that's plenty of time. It's been circulating the whole time, and it should have washed all that oil out of the bearings and off the gears, and going to go down into the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it. By the way, I know that my clutch is working really good because it's stopping just like it should. So I'm looking forward to getting the oil in there. So the other thing I was going to mention, I've got a few of these jugs from the parts washer. I went ahead and marked one as used kerosene, and I'm going to clean my bucket and my funnel, and we're going to dump this kerosene out into this container, and I'll reuse this whenever I go to clean a machine. If I want to, you know, clean the outside of the machine, this will be great for that kind of stuff. All right, we got the power kill to the machine. Go ahead and take our lid back off. Oh, that's heavy. Yep, I can see that it's mixed in a little bit. So we'll go ahead and drain it again. All right, guys, just a repeat of earlier, we're going to go ahead and remove our plug. Get the cap on before I overflow the bucket there. Yeah, we still got plenty of good clean kerosene right there. This will make great machinery cleaning fluid right there. Whenever we go to clean the Monarch off and clean the Smith & Mill shaper. Could be more than that, so go ahead and plug it up. At least we're going to get the machine cleaned off back here. All right, we got it all drained. We just letting it drip now, and I think our capacity for oil in the headstock is going to be approximately 2 gallons. These buckets that I use are 1 gallon buckets, you know, and we dumped it twice. When we did the oil, you know, we had almost 2 of those buckets, and when I put the kerosene in there, I actually overfilled it just a little bit. So just take an observation. All right, so got to get in here now. See the cavities down there that still got the kerosene in it. There's one over there too. So I got to do my cleaning out with the pig mat, and I'll use my little baster and get in there and finish sucking the rest of that kerosene out. And then while I'm doing that, the rest of this should kind of drip on down. But my turkey baster's been working really good to get this kerosene sucked out of here. If I get the pump just right, I get a full vial there of fluid. So I've been working on this side over here, and I got just about every bit of it out. So what I was going to show you, I took one piece of my pig mat and I just cut it into little pieces here, something easy and manageable that I can get down in here like this, and I'm just going to slide it underneath that shaft there. The camera's right where I need to get, so I'm a little awkward here, but so just like that, just slide it up underneath there, so that'll sit there and start soaking up that little bit of kerosene and oil that's still left in the bottom. And I'll monitor that, and I'm going to continue to work on this valley over here on this side. All right, we don't want to forget to put the drain plug back in and tighten it up. So I'm just showing you that. Make sure that we get it done. I'm just about through with getting the inside cleaned and dry. So I wanted to go ahead and get this back on before I forget about it. I feel like I've got it about as dry as I can really get it. I've sucked it all out at the bottom on both of these sides here. It's all out everywhere. So we're ready to go. I did spray off some of the tops of the gears here with my solvent degreaser. It's fast evaporating, just so it would kind of flow down at the bottom, and I've kind of mopped that up. So I think we're ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and get this oil ready to pour in there. Make sure the bucket's clean before you go to dump it. So here we go. The moment we've been waiting on all day. Get a little bit on these gears. That's looking good, man. I can still see a little bit over here of the kerosene that I wasn't able to get out, but that'll be all right. Almost there, just about to come into my oil level line down here on the sight glass. This is the oil level that I'm talking about right there. So I'm basically at it. We got, I don't know, maybe a 1/16 of an inch to come up. So we'll go ahead and top it off with just a little bit more oil. I'm gonna go ahead and kick the lathe on and go ahead and start spinning it over a little bit at a time. Yep, getting good oil now. See, that sucker really splashes and distributes it well whenever you get going. I'm just barely engaging that clutch. All right, I think everything's looking good. I'm gonna double check the sight glass here. Looks like we're just a little bit over our level line, so we've got adequate oil in there. So we are ready to button this thing up and close the top off and let it run, and check our clutch also. I think our clutch is good. I wanted to point out this right here. Okay, this is the brake for the lathe. This is called a cone brake, and let me put it in a low gear there. So when I activate the clutch, you can see that this shaft is pivoting and it's pulling that cone out of the cup. You see it spinning with the input shaft, and then so whenever you let off the clutch or you pull the clutch lever up, it goes into that cup there. And as you pull up on the handle, I'm pulling up on it, it's pushing that cone up inside this housing tight, and that's what the brake is. So that's how you actually brake. You just pull up on it. Just like that. So I wanted everybody to be aware that that's the actual brake right there for the lathe. All right, we're going back on with the lid. We're gonna button her up. I've got it all cleaned off. The underside of it is completely clean, wiped free of trash. Only thing I haven't done yet is I want to wash the bolts off that go in here. So I'm going to go do that real quick, and then we'll get it bolted down. You've also got a fill cap right here. This is where, if you need to add some oil, this is where you put it in right there. Actually, I need to go wash that, get that old oil off. But there's a filter screen in there that lifts out. In fact, I'll pull it out of there. I'll go ahead and go wash that out, but if you need to top it off with some oil, this is where it goes right here. All right, we got our little filter screen, or just a screen, clean. Just protects the opening here whenever you open this thing up from trash getting down in there, chips or anything like that. And there's our fill cap there. All right. All right, well, our oil change is finished up. Let's go ahead and fire it up. And we're gonna go ahead and run it now. clutch is working good too. So let's go ahead and everything sounds normal. It's actually, the tone of the machine is changed just slightly. That whine that most people have noticed coming from the clutch area back here, it's got a different sound, and it might be because of the bearing that I greased there. I'm not really sure. But anyway, this job is done. All right, I'm happy with that. Well, guys, that's going to be the end for this video on the oil change for the headstock, draining the oil out, getting it clean, and then refilling it. So I hope that this might help some of you guys out there that's running some Monarch machines. Even if it's not a Monarch, you can still apply the same kind of principles to, you know, any machine, any lathe, as far as draining it and getting the inside of the headstock or the gearbox cleaned out. So anyway, it's time to get back to work, and hopefully you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.